Hello, goodbye, and hello again. Welcome back to Drifter Carbon and to another Minecraft Texture Pack review. Today we're taking a look at Hacker Texture Pack by Giggle Block Studios. It is 660 Minecraft coins, and I don't remember how big it was. Like, I just downloaded this today, and it completely slipped my mind to pay attention to how many megabytes it was. But anyway, let's read the description. It says, hacked weapons, armor, dragon, and much more. Create the ultimate hacker base with this moving texture pack to simulate being a hacker. Whether playing a minigame server or a game such as Skyblock, experience it to the fullest with this epic, overpowered texture pack. All textures animated. We'll see about that. Custom UI and font. 1.19 support, so this is pretty old. It hasn't been updated since 1.19. Hacker tools, blocks, mobs, and items, or hacked tools, blocks, mobs, and items. I think they just mean, I'm pretty sure this is just a texture pack. I don't think this is actually doing anything to modify the behavior of anything. But yeah, I just thought this might be a fun one to do because it's supposed to have a lot of animated blocks, and we haven't seen a lot of texture packs with a bunch of animation. So anyway, if you haven't seen one of these videos before, I show off all the textures in a pack and then I give my final thoughts. So let's just, there's no avatars or no skins in this pack, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump on in. All right, here we are in the texture pack review world. I did also figure out that it's like 18.8 megabytes. I forgot that you can check after you've installed something how big it is. Anyway, there's the double slabs are not independently animated, so those are just going to look the same as their full block equivalent. So we're not going to bother to look at them today. Let's start by looking at things that grow. So the trees and stuff, everything, the grass and the trees have animation to them. Pretty simplistic animation, but it's there. But the baby trees don't. They're standalone, but they're kind of cute baby trees. So here's mushrooms. Oh, my ear is bothering me. It's making it. My voice sounds weird in my own head today. Yeah, see, this hasn't been updated since the pitcher plant and the sniffer have been added. So some of the stuff is going to be too new. Very busy flowers. There's going to be a lot of things that are like animated, but in such a way that they're mostly just a little bit distracting. Doesn't look like the sunflower is animated. Go down this way. Yeah, the cherry trees are too new. Obviously, the Pale Garden stuff is way too recent for this pack. Looks like is there just one texture for the tree trunks? Here's your giant mushrooms. Let's look at logs and planks. Yes, there's one texture for tree trunks. That one's not animated. That's kind of funny that all of them are animated except for one that are custom. You also lose the animation when you shave off the outer layer of your tree with an axe. Here's your planks. They kind of glow. The mortar, I guess, glows. There you go. It doesn't look like there's variations on the plank texture. It's all just the same. So yeah, but there's, it's the same texture, just different colors. Here's dirt, sand, gravel, and moss. You can see that the font is different. They did create their own custom font, which is one of the things that they advertised on the page. We are seeing some repeats of textures already. But Suspicious Sand and Suspicious Gravel are too new. Sandstone. Yeah, we're getting some more complicated animations here, like the blinking eyes and stuff on the sandstone. It's not all just a line moving down the page. Here's stone and stuff. These are fine. We are again seeing some repeats in the textures. So, you know, I prefer when things have different textures for different kinds of stone and whatnot. It makes it a little easier to identify things. Here's polished stone, cobblestone, the brick. I mean, these are usable brick textures. It's kind of funny having a brick wall glow. Stone, bricks, blocks, etc. These look fine. These look good. Here is the glass. Does the glass have an animation to it? It does. So you can see that there's even animation on the glass itself, except for the clear glass. All of the colored glasses have this little moving rectangles thing. Here's wool. Looks like it is animated. So we're seeing a lot of blocks with animation. Concrete powder. Here's concrete. Looks like a circuit board. Terracotta. Glazed terracotta. So yeah, if you want a pack with a lot of animations, this is the most animations we've seen so far. But I do like the glazed terracotta. They've got some fun stuff going on there. Here's the ore. Yeah, nice and easy to see the difference between the regular ore and the stone. You're not going to mistakenly walk past some ore. Nether ore, deep slate ore. Same story, nice and easy to see. Amethyst. It's kind of got a layer of black and white on the bottom of the amethyst. Surprisingly not animated, though. The amethyst isn't animated. Random lonely magma block. Here's sponges. You can... I don't know. I can't really... Well, okay. The texture seems to be flipped between the wet and the dry. But other than that, it might be a little difficult to... I guess there's more dots on the wet one. So you can tell the difference. It's just not immediately apparent. Light sources... The bulbs are too new. There's your campfires and your jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkins. There's only one jack-o'-lantern. Here are signs. Looks like it's pretty easy to read the signs. There is a custom texture here, but it doesn't pop so much as to be distracting when you're trying to read. Hanging signs are too new. Monster spawner, fences and gates. Yep, they're glowy. Dried kelp block. Here's diamond, lapis, gold, emerald, and redstone blocks. In the iron block, looks like there's just one texture for those. Raw, copper, gold, and iron. Obviously, they're different colors. I just mean the pattern is the same. The lodestone. Here's prismarine. We have a different looking slime block today. It looks blue or like, you know, bluish green or whatever, sky blue, whatever that is. The honey looks almost greenish. Maybe my color blindness is betraying me. The hay bale. Here's a different looking bone block. The quartz, pretty standard stuff on the quartz. The quartz isn't animated. Copper, some of which is too new. The ladder has kind of a fun animation to it. Makes it very standout-ish. Doors, only the bottom row is going to be custom. So we will just focus down here. Yeah, these are pretty fun. The ones that are actually custom are cute enough. We have some repeating texture here. going on. There's a little bit of difference in like the top half isn't animated on that one, whereas it is on that one. So there's some differences, but pretty similar. Trapdoors. Yeah, these are fine. They look similar to, well, some of these look different, but some of them look similar to more standard vanilla textures, just with animation. Bookcases, etc. There is one kind of bookcase. We will open the lectern to show off that the book looks the same. Here's the enchanting table. The beds, there's one pattern for the beds. Except that this one seems to just be vanilla. Not sure why that's... was this color added after this pack was updated? I didn't think that they added more beds at any point, but... Crafting table and villager job tables. It looks like the crafting table is animated and it has cycles through icons for the different tools you can make. That's kind of a fun little feature. But the crafting tables and villager job tables look fine. Look good. Furnaces, anvils and grindstone. You can tell how damaged your anvil is. Here's your cauldrons. We have the lava and the potion. The chests, you can tell which one is trapped. The barrel, jukebox and note block. Here's an armor stand. At least they bothered to change it up a little bit so it doesn't look just like the default one. The beacon, the bell, standard sound effects, the iron bars. We have this weird thing going on with the single iron bar where it just looks transparent in the middle. We've seen that several times. Top two rows of paintings are going to be too new, so we'll just focus on these ones down here. Doesn't look like the paintings are animated. I feel like that's a missed opportunity, if that's possible. But yeah, these fit the theme. They look like things you would have on your wall in a hacker texture pack, I suppose. Alrighty, here's item frames. The rails. Oh, yeah. Some of these rails, like the activated rail and that rail, they look a little too similar to each other, so you can't tell the difference between them. At least I can't tell. So we're having some readability issues with certain items. That's what the TNT looks like. These were things in mine carts. There's a sheep in a mine cart. We'll look at mobs later. Redstone stuff. They did some fun different things with their designs. Pottery is too new, just in general. Scaffolding. Here's the banners. Get a little closer. You can see it has a very faint texture that is animated. There's a little bit of movement on the banners. Very difficult to see it. The boats. Doesn't look like the boats are animated other than the Z fighting that's going on with the ores. Tough is too new, just in general. Trial spawner and vault are too new. Resin is too new. The target, that's what the target looks like. And the mob heads. So here's what the mob heads look like. There you go. And the dragon egg is kind of looks pretty different, I would say. So just in general, I think the blocks look fine. There were a lot of repeated textures though, so you're kind of losing some points for that. You know, it's nice to have a pack with lots of animation. A lot of the animation seemed pretty simple on the blocks, but some of it was more advanced. So that's fun. All right, let's jump back. All right. Oh, let's look at the sky while I'm thinking about it. So huge sun. Not sure what's going on there, but it has a different look to it. It's got like dots around the outer rim of it. Does that make it look more hacked? I'm not sure. But you got kind of a different thing going on with the clouds as well. Let's set off a firework real quick. That's what the firework looks like. Hold on. Is that quieter than usual? I don't know. It sounded quieter. Throw a snowball. That's what throwing the snowball looks like. Wind charge is 2 new. Bucket of axolotl is pretty standard. I mean, it's not a 3D model. I usually check for that just in case. You never know when someone's going to throw a bucket buddy at you. So here's the armor. Looks like there's one design for the armors, but they have different colored visors and stuff. Interesting. Nothing too special going on with the armor there. Let's look at the swords. Looks like there's one design for the sword. That's what the elytra looks like. And the shield. Here's your various other tools. The mace is 2 new. Let's look at armor trims. So these, as always, are amethyst armor trims on iron armor. Looks like these are the default armor trims, but because they didn't dramatically change the geometry on the armor, it still seems to fit just fine. So there you go. Here's items, starting with weapons and tools. Yeah, I mean these get the message across of what they're supposed to be, but I don't know. It's a little more difficult to tell like what tier of tool you're using with some of these. Yeah. Not sure I'm a huge fan of the look of these tools, but you know, here's other tools and weapons. I mean, other tools and items. The respawn compass and the regular compass. There's the clock. That's kind of a fun design for the clock. Here's the horn, the horse armor. Here's potions. We do have more than one potion design. So that's nice to see. There's so the some of this the seeds and foods and stuff are like in cans. That's kind of a interesting twist. You can tell what stuff is because it looks like the icon on the can looks like the item. Somewhat. Like I might have a hard time telling what some of this is actually now that I say that. Here's music discs over here. They're floppy disks. One of the other packs that we looked at had floppy disks for music discs as well, but I don't remember which one. Here's things in buckets. Some of which are little aquariums. That's kind of a cute touch, I guess. Minerals. Yeah, easy enough to tell what most of this stuff is, I guess. There you go. And this is most of this stuff is too new. I would say that the main complaint that I have with this pack so far is that well, one, it's a little bit busy with all the animations and stuff, but I guess that's a selling point as much as it is a detriment at times. But like it's also the fact that it's not been updated in quite some time, and I do feel like this would be a better pack if they updated it for the recent updates. Here's what a couch or a chair or a bench would look like. Here's a water cooler. This is what the nether portal looks like. We'll go through that later, but that's kind of a fun little... reminds me of when someone is beaming up on Star Trek. Let's look at mobs. Okay, we may have the issue with the farm animals where they are the default at mobs. Yes, we do. Okay, that's what the bees look like. Kind of a cute bee. But yeah, so the pigs, chickens, and cows are all default. That is a Minecraft problem. I don't know why it happens. Here's the sheep. They're semi-robotic. Oh, the wolves are not working. Wolf and wolf armor are not rendering at all. They are pitch black. That's unfortunate. This pack needs to be updated so they can fix some of these issues. Here's the polar bear. So a lot of the mobs kind of just have this, like they've got screws in them. And very simplistic lines for eyes and stuff. The ocelot. Here's the cat. Cat looks pretty normal. Okay, these ones look different. Some of the cats look more like cats, and some of them look more like robot cats. Oh, you can also see that the lead has a texture to it. Most packs don't bother to do something different with the lead. But there you go. The cats almost look like they could split in half. Here's the mushroom, but it's standard. The bat is the standard modern bat. They changed the geometry of the bat at some point, and it made a lot of older texture packs default to the vanilla bat. Here's the parrots. Not too much going on with the parrots. I guess they also have bolts on their wings. The rabbit. Here's the llama. They also have the same kind of thing the cats had, where they're just split in two. Same with the horses. Okay, we're seeing a lot of repeats of the same kind of texture on a lot of the mobs. It seems like most of the mobs' bodies so far have just kind of had the same thing going on with them. Here's horse and horse armor. Horse armor looks okay. Donkey and the mule. Here is the skeleton horse and the zombie horse. There you go. I guess everything's supposed to look like robots. Here's the tropical fish. Nothing too crazy going on with them. The cod. Up here with the cod. Okay, yeah, you know. They at least they look different from the default cod. You know. The puffer fish. Go ahead and let them puff up so we can see them better. Face over this way. Okay, not much going on with the faces. They just kind of have lines for faces. Kind of disappointing. Salmon, yes, I pronounced it that way on purpose. That's what they look like. We're gonna have to probably spawn in the dolphin again. Luckily, I've got one of those in my inventory. There you go. So it kind of, instead of having eyes, it seems to just have bolts on the side. That's different, but you know. That's one of the more different looking mobs that's in this pack so far, because it's kind of got a two-tone color scheme going on. Here's the turtle. Just looks semi-robotic. The panda. Here's the fox. Yeah, I'm struggling to come up with unique things to say about these different mobs, because they've all kind of got the same thing going on. They're all the same theme. They're very similar. Here's the creeper. At least the creeper looks more robotic than most of the mobs, like even more like a robot. So that's kind of cool. Here's the let's find an Enderman. Come here, Enderman. There you go. They've got stripes. That's different at least. Here is the silverfish. It's got dots instead of its usual spikes. Here's the skeleton. And the wither skeleton. And the stray. The stray looks like the skeleton, but with a kind of a shirt and a like a helmet on or a hat. The slime, just like the slime block, the slime is blue. Here's the spider and cave spider. Zombies. Pretty uneventful zombie there. Just looks like he's got a belt on almost, or like he's split in half. The bog is too new. The husk. Face over this way, husk. Come on, husk. You gonna make me go over there? You come over here and then you'll be facing the other way? No? Okay. Well, we saw him for a second there. Here is the drowned. They look like the zombie except blue. Here's the squid and glow squid. Yeah, you know, they did something fun with the squid, at least. They look, they have a little more going on than some of the mobs. More stripes and stuff. Only one texture for the squid. The witch looks pretty much how you'd expect from this pack. Guardian and Elder Guardian. That's what they look like. We are going to have to spawn in an Endermite. Very standard Endermite. The magma cube is default. Strider. Push one of these guys in the lava. Come on, go in the lava. There you go. That's what they look like when they're lit up by the lava. The Zoglin, Zombified Hoglin, at least has something different going on with him. Like he's got glowing neon bones. The zombie, the Zoglins, zombie piglins. That's what they look like. They also have glowing ribs sticking out. The goat. Let's look at the axolotl. Okay, they just kind of have. Well, they have different faces, but they also have bolts coming out of them, and kind of a different frill, a simpler frill on their heads. The allay. The frog is in here somewhere. There's the frog. Yep. Not much going on with the frog. Gonna have to spawn in the wandering trader. Get out your llamas, trader. There we go. It's green instead of blue, but looks similar to what it would normally look like. The camel is too new. Here's the blaze. Hold on, see if we can catch its face. There you go, it just has dots for eyes. Nothing too exciting. The ghast. Okay, you know, credit where credit's due. The ghast has kind of a fun design to it. So look, it's got circuits on its back, and it's got a robotic face and stripes on its tentacles. So the ghast is probably my favorite mob in this pack so far. Here's the shulkers. They're very simple. Vindicator and Evoker have the same face as each other. They're just in slightly different outfits. This like Vindicator's shirt is striped. Villagers. Let's look at the villagers. Is there more than one face on the villager? No. Okay, they're all just this bearded person. Alrighty, but they have a few different outfits. Here is the zombie villager. And the phantom. Here's the pillagers. There you go. The ravager. Yeah, I mean, some of these mobs lend themselves to this style more than others. I feel like the larger mobs have more going on with their designs than the smaller ones do. I guess they had more room to fit in little details on these guys. But, how often are you seeing the Ravager versus how often you see some of the more common mobs, right? Is that Z fighting on the chin? I think that may just be Z fighting on the chin. Yes, it is. I thought it was animated at first, but it's not. Iron Golem and damaged Iron Golem. You can tell how damaged your Iron Golem is. We are now showing off the undamaged, slightly damaged, and very damaged Iron Golem here. We have all three now. Snow Golem and Snow Golem with its pumpkin carved off. You can see that's what they look like. The Sniffer, as we said before, is too new. So is the Armadillo. Here's the Warden. It has kind of a nice enough but simple design. Breeze is too new. Here's the Wither. Wait for it to stop spinning around so we can see it better. Face over this way, Wither. There you go. Pretty standard Wither. And of course the creaking is too new. So my general thoughts on the mobs is I feel like that they're kind of letting this pack down a little bit. I feel like they could have done something more with the mobs to make them different from each other. There's a lot of like repeated motif and stuff. It's okay to have a theme. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying I would have liked to have seen more differences between the different mobs. They were very similar. Most of them were very similar to each other. All right, let's go to the Nether. You know what? Before we go to the Nether, let me show off the UI. So you can see at the bottom here, you've got animation on the item bar. It's very simple. It's just kind of a scanning line. And then when you open up your menu, you've got just black. It's just black with green text. This is about as simple as you can get with a custom UI. So not terribly blown away by that, given that that was one of its selling points that they listed on the menu. I mean, on the description. But we're gonna go ahead and go through the portal, like on camera, so we can see. Okay, it has. You can see the title of the of the texture pack there, but. When you load into a world for the first time, like I'll go ahead and show that off when we go into the next world. There is actually a loading screen that's more different than that. Anyway, here we are in the Nether. Here's the Hogland. It's what you would expect from this pack. They didn't do anything too crazy with them either. Here we have the respawn anchor, looks like. Is that the same texture? It's slightly different colors, but it's the same pattern on the lit respawn anchor as the Nether portal. Here's your piglins. Credit where credit's due. They do have more than one piglin. But that's pretty normal. It's just every now and then you'll see a pack that doesn't. So I always try to point it out when they did bother to do that. Get another look at the ghast here. That's probably the one of the best parts of the whole pack. I suppose the best part of the pack so far is the animated blocks, which is kind of the big selling point of the pack, right? We'll fly out here and look at another biome though. There you go. That's what the trees look like in the Nether. You kind of have your your blue ground blocks here. So yeah, that's what that looks like. All right, let's go check out the Stronghold Below template world. Okay, we are going to go into the Stronghold Below template world, but I'm going to do it on camera so we can see that this is what the loading screen looks like. that's one of the cooler things in the pack as well. Is it does have a very matrixy, hackery loading screen when you're entering a world. Cold pig and cold cow are default because obviously the pack's not that new. I do kind of like the look of the glowstone there. That's kind of fun. Anyway, if you'd like to create a world very similar to this one with the stronghold right about here, when you're creating a new world, next to where you would input a custom seed, there's a button for templates. This one is called Stronghold Below. Let's look at some villager houses. These animated doors look kind of fun on the villager houses. Yeah, that looks nice when it's a double door too, so that's kind of cool. Let's fly over this way. That's what the moon looks like. Fly over this way and look at the abandoned village so we can see a spider web. Kind of a different looking spider web there. And we'll fly over this way to look at the ruined portal. See, the crying obsidian does not look very different from the regular obsidian in this pack. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity because you've got all these animations on a lot of the blocks and you didn't bother to have like a crazy like crying animation on the crying obsidian. I feel like that's a shame. Let's go ahead and jump on into the stronghold here. There you go. Yeah, the bars, the iron bars look kind of weird in this pack. Stronghold looks okay. These blocks are not animated either. So the texture pack description does say like all blocks are animated or something. It said something about all the blocks being animated, but it's not all of the blocks. It's just most of the blocks. Eating the pumpkin pie is just gonna look normal. Here's a potion of strength so we can see the swirlies. They are standard swirlies. They didn't change those. Blowing the goat horn is normal. Reloading the crossbow, pretty standard stuff. They didn't change that dramatically. Potion of enchanting. Standard looking swirlies there. Alright, let's activate the end portal. There you go. Okay, that's kind of a fun end portal, you know. Looks a little bit different from normal. Go ahead and jump on in. Kind of a standard black static void in the end. Go up here and look at the end crystal. There you go. That's what that looks like. And last but not least, the Ender Dragon. Yeah, you know, I like the pattern on its wings and stuff. So that's they did an alright job on the Ender Dragon, you know. But it does still have they did the same kind of robotic texture on its body. I would have liked to have seen some more variety on the bodies of the mobs, but at least its wings are different. So, what are my thoughts on this pack? It is a bit old. It hasn't been updated since 1.19, and I feel like that's one of its biggest flaws because there were several things that went wrong with that. Obviously, there were things that have been added since then which are not custom, but there's also some of the things got broken, like the wolves, for example, broke, and their texture just isn't rendering at all. And I think that could be fixed if they updated the pack and addressed that. The blocks were mostly animated. Most of them were animated, and a lot of the animations are simple, but they did actually put in the time and effort to do something different. So they're getting bonus points for that. I do think that it would be fun to see some of the newer blocks be animated as well. And there were other things like some of the stuff that's not animated, like the crying obsidian and the regular obsidian. Those two looked very similar to each other. There were some repeated textures as well. Some things that look the same as other things, which makes it very difficult to identify what's in your hand or what's in front of you in the world. So that was not so great. The items I felt were usable. I didn't really like the design of the weapons, and the armor was unimpressive. But I felt like they did a fun thing with like sticking a lot of the foods and stuff in jars, and the mobs and buckets were in little aquariums instead of buckets. So that was a cute idea. I feel like the mobs were the main downside of this pack. Like I said, the dogs were broken. There were a lot of repetitive designs on the mobs. Like a lot of the mobs look like they just took the same texture and applied it to the geometry of the different mobs. Everything's kind of just, it's a robot, and it looks like a robot because it's got screws in it or whatever. I feel like they could have done something crazier with the mobs to make it look more hackery, you know, make it look more like a hacker pack. And just in general, there was the mobs were kind of low detail. There wasn't a whole lot going on with a lot of them. The UI is very simple. It is animated on the item bar here, but the inventory is just pitch black. So that wasn't great. The nether and the eng look fine, but they're not all that crazy. But yeah, so I'm gonna give this pack like a 3.5 because I feel like a lot of the stuff in the pack is pretty standard, like middle of the road in quality. But it kind of has that little bit of extra spice because of all the animations. And that's kind of what you're buying it for is the animated blocks, and they did deliver on that. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things that they could have done to make it more special, but it's you know, it's not an overly expensive pack. It's 660 Minecraft coins. So if you don't mind the fact that it needs an update, then it's still usable. But there's definitely packs out there that have more bang for buck, I would say. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.